Last season, IMSA saw some incredible battles across all 4 of their classes. Porsche broke through in GTP with a strong championship season. LMP2 saw 5 different winners in the 7-race calendar. GTD Pro had an extremely dramatic final round that went right down to the closing laps of the race. While in GTD, we saw one car dominate right from the word go. The 2024 season was a great one, and 2025 is shaping up to be no different. So let's talk about some season predictions, shall we? The new season is right around the corner, and with it comes plenty of excitement and, of course, plenty of unknown. This year, I wanted to start a new yearly tradition with you all, and no, it's not us sitting around and, baking and decorating IMSA cookies or something like that. We're going to talk about some championship predictions. Now, some of you may know me for making some rather bold predictions over on the Rain Race podcast, but I know I can do better than that here. I think I can get, I don't know, maybe 50% of the season champions right. Is that a little bit over optimistic here? I mean, might as well set the bar high, right? But the whole point of this is, as I'm making my predictions, I want you to play along as well and make your predictions. You can copy and paste the pinned comment below with all of your full season and Michelin Endurance Cup championship predictions. Stick them in the comments, because I know I'm gonna love looking back at these at the end of the season, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video to it. But without further ado, let's just get into it. Of course, we're gonna start off with the GTP class, and what can we say? The GTP class has delivered the first 2 seasons that it's been on the IMSA grid. 2023 saw it go down to the wire in a late race battle in the final race of the season. That featured a little bit of controversy, but it saw the 31 Action Express Racing Cadillac emerge victorious. Last year was a competitive season, but in my opinion, it was really a 2-horse race between Cadillac and Porsche, and of course we know how it all turned out. Porsche had a really strong season and went on to the championship. The GTP schedule this year looks a lot like it did last year. It's the same lineup of races, and of course the only 2 rounds that the GTPs won't be present at are the CTMP round and the VIR round. It also features a fairly strong grid as well. There will be 10 full season entries, plus the Valkyrie for kind of an 11th full season entry. It's missing the Rolex 24, but should be there for the rest of them. And then add in the SC63 and add in Proton, and you have 13 cars for Michelin Endurance Cup races. I just believe that these are going to be very difficult predictions to make. We're in year 3 of this GTP formula now, and there's so many strong names and so many strong entries in the class. To go along with it, there's also been a ton of shuffling in this class this silly season. And when we're talking about a class as tight and as close as the GTP class is, then any little advantage that these teams can get is going to be huge at the end of the season when the championship is decided. I think it ultimately boils down to a 3-horse race here in GTP between 3 manufacturers. We have Acura, we have Cadillac, and of course we have the defending champions Porsche. Now, the Cadillacs have seen big change. Either the team running those cars in IMSA has changed, or in the case of the 31, which is staying with the same team, the driver lineup has changed pretty significantly. Porsche, on the other hand, have seen much fewer changes than the other 2 manufacturers, and are making relatively minor changes comparatively. But the thing that does it for me in this GTP class is the level of hunger. In 2023, Porsche was mad about how the season ended for them. You'll remember in GTP there was that crash at Petit Le Mans that dashed any hopes that they had at the championship, a relatively silly incident that they got caught up in. And then of course their GT car was struggling as well to add a little bit of extra fuel to the fire. But look, they harnessed that, they built off of that into this past season, the 2024 season, and they went out and dominated. They won championships, they won a ton of races. The car on the grid that I see that could have the same level of hunger as Porsche showed last off season is Meyer-Shank Racing. And the number 60 is my pick for the full season championship win. Now look, it's not just the incredible driver lineup here of Colin Braun and Tom Blomqvist. This team has overcome so much to get back here, and they're going to be eager to prove that Acura made the right move in bringing them back. They already know how to win in this car, this class, and this championship. And they would have been champions in this class easily back in 2023 if it hadn't been for that Daytona penalty. This is a team, an organization, and a manufacturer that all have something to prove. I think that Meyershank Racing does what they should have done in 2023 and take the GTP crown. For the GTP Endurance Cup, well, there's a lineup here that I think last year everybody thought was going to be a breakout contender, but they just never really got to that breakout point. The number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac of Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz, and Alex Lynn will have a steep learning curve ahead of them, but I think they'll be on for a big Michelin Endurance Cup. The Cadillac platform has proven to be a strong one across so many of the tracks in IMSA, and I think that this car can really shine in the longer Michelin Endurance Cup races. Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing is a great organization, and pairing them back up with Cadillac, I think that this car will hit the ground running in 2025, and the number 40 takes the Michelin Endurance Cup GTP crown. I also want to throw in a bold prediction or a breakout pick here, because who doesn't love those? And honestly, for me, looking up and down the grid, I hone in on BMW. I think BMW has a car that finishes in the top 4 in the full season championship standings and is in the running for that championship until virtually the end of the season. Now, I don't know if this is really a huge bold prediction or a bold breakout, but let's just take a step back and consider where this program is coming from. They finished last of the full-time manufacturers in the GTP class the past 2 years. And in the team standings, it hasn't been much better. They've only mustered a best finish of 6th. And that was when only 8 teams were competing in the GTP class full-time. Now, they started to show more life at the end of the 2024 season, in particular at Indianapolis, but also at some other rounds. And I think they can take that to the next level in 2025. I think that they could pick up 1 or 2 wins over the season, but more importantly, what I think this car can do is just build some consistency. If they can build some consistency, pick up, a good race win or 2 along the way, I think they'll easily be in the top 4 in points at the end of the season. LMP2 is a fun class to look at because it's as strong as it's ever been. Yet, despite it delivering some of the most consistent and incredible racing year in and year out, it still feels like it's a bit underrated. As I said at the top, this class saw 5 different winners in the 7-race championship last year. And 8 of the 10 cars that competed in this class got on the podium. The class is as wide open as ever. And they too will see some consistency in their schedule the next year. As their calendar remains the same, there was some rumblings that maybe they would switch a couple of things up, but that hasn't come to fruition, and that LMP2 schedule looks to remain the same. They'll be doing all 5 of the Michelin Endurance Cup events, plus Road America, and of course the CTMP round, where they will be the highlighting class. There are an expected 12 full season entries in this class, including a couple of entries from United Autosports, number 8 Tower Motorsports, Algarve Pro Racing, aka CrowdStrike Racing is back, TDS, Era Motorsport, Inter Europol, PR1 Matheson, Pratt Miller Motorsports has their new LMP2 entry here, Riley, AF Corsa, and of course Spike in AO Racing. This class is just so good, and it's underrated, I think. Like, people, why do we sleep on the LMP2 class? Anyways, I digress. As we've seen demonstrated at numerous times in this class, if you have a good bronze driver in LMP2, there's a good chance you're going to be at the front. And there are so many good bronze drivers in this class. Tower Motorsports and John Ferrano, they're former champions here. You have United Autosport, who again have stacked lineups and a full season of IMSA running under their belt. You see George Kurtz and CrowdStrike, they're back on the grid. Stephen Thomas and TDS Racing. AO Racing Spike, they had a boatload of poles last year with PJ Hyatt, and of course there's the defending class champions Inter Europol. But for me, there's one name that rises above all of these, and this is a car that didn't even pick up a win in this class last year. And that car is the number 74 Riley. Gar Robinson and Felipe Fraga have been partnered for years now. They tore up the LMP3 ranks and last year moved up to LMP2. And while they didn't tear it up in the LMP2 class like they did in LMP3, they still managed to finish second in the standings, and that was without a race win to their name. They're going to be hungry this year, and I think they're going to edge out Spike for the LMP2 full season championship. In the Endurance Cup, there's a team that we saw with a ton of blistering speed last year in TDS Racing. They won the final 2 races of the year last year, and they're always among the best in the LMP2 class. They returned once again with a great driver lineup, more experience under their belt, give me the number 11 for the Endurance Cup in LMP2. As for a bold prediction or a breakout in this class, it's a little bit difficult for me to say that the team that won the 24 Hours of Daytona last year, as well as the Sebring 12 Hours, are going to be a breakout. But give me Era Motorsports here and hear me out for a second. There's a lot of turnover here in the driver lineup from where they were last year, those lineups that won the opening 2 races of the season, to where they are today. Connor Zilic, he's going off to NASCAR and he's doing a one-off GTD Pro entry with his fellow Trackhouse drivers and Ben Keating, and their former bronze driver Dwight Merriman is off running in another championship. Now, Ryan Dalziel, the Scottish fans, did I get that right? Is the only constant here, but they've added some fantastic pieces around him. Paul-Loup Chatin is an incredible LMP2 driver in his own right, and he's going to be joining the car. It sounds like he's going to be joining them for the Michelin Endurance Cup rounds, but I wasn't able to find pure confirmation on that. And then there's their new full-season bronze driver, Tobias Lutka, aka Toby. I've heard from multiple people now that he's shown very impressive pace in the car. And with all things considered there, give me Era Motorsports as the breakout or sort of the bold prediction here in the LMP2 class. Now, GTD Pro is a class that's newer to the IMSA grid, but I don't think it's ever been stronger. With 10 full season entries after Dragon Speed switched from GTD to GTD Pro and an additional Michelin Endurance Cup entry there's going to be some great battles in this class. Oh, and this doesn't even count the one-off entries for the Rolex 24 from the likes of Trackhouse, 75 Express, Get Speed, and the Heart of Racing. There is one round of the IMSA calendar that the GTD Pro cars won't be at, and that's the Long Beach round, but don't be surprised if you see some of those GTP cars making the trip to Long Beach and just competing in the GTD class. Man, oh man, I am dreading making these picks in GTD Pro. I mean, you look at this lineup that's ahead of us, and tell me a team that isn't capable of winning a championship in this class. The field is absolutely stacked, and we're going to be in for a great championship fight. Ultimately, it's going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes and who avoids trouble, which is basically the formula that Rexy followed last year, consistent results. That being said, I see 2 very strong cars in this class that I think could break away from this strong GTD Pro field, and that's the 2 Corvettes. Look, they had their new car struggles last year, but the second half of the season, they emerged with consistent good pace. In year 2 of that car, I think they are going to have it figured out and end up being dangerously consistent. Again, basically what Rexy was this past year. But if I have to pick for the full season championship, give me the number 4 Corvette. It's kind of like a random toss-up between the 3 and the 4, but my gut says the 4, so give me the number 4. In the Endurance Cup, I think Vasser Sullivan is coming into this season hungry. Give me them for the Michelin Endurance Cup Championship. Again, this car has proven to be a workhorse, a winner, a championship winner, and they're going to want to send it out with a bang, assuming that that new car to replace it is going to be here for next season. So for that, give me the number 14. As for the bold prediction or the breakout, look, I can already hear you guys groaning and moaning at this. And I've thought a lot about whether I want to include this one, because I'm obviously a Pfaff homer. But I think that Pfaff breaks through with not 1, but 2 wins in GTD Pro this year. Look, the last 2 seasons have been rough, like very rough. But let's not forget that this team is just a couple of years removed from being back-to-back GTD and GTD Pro champions. They seem to have some more support at their disposal from Lamborghini, and that Huracan has proven to be a winner in IMSA. Now that there's finally a full season GTD Pro Lamborghini on the grid, and one that is expected to feature 2 Lamborghini factory drivers, I think this is a recipe for a lot of success. But if you disagree and just want to call me a homer in the comments, then I will remember, and when I come back and revisit this video in the fall, I will definitely call you out. Anyways, on to GTD, and this is a GTD class where we just keep seeing the bar pushed higher and higher every season. Windward Racing dominated last year and returns to the class again in 2025 to defend their title. By my count, we should have about 14 full season entries and about 20 Michelin Endurance Cup entries, so plenty of entries in this class. And of that bunch, there are a ton that could contend for a championship. Like the GTD Pro class, this GTD class will be at 10 of the 11 IMSA rounds this season, only missing out on the Detroit round. And as for what we might expect to see in this GTD class, well, I don't think we're going to see what we've seen in recent years, where there's one team that like really goes and dominates everything. I certainly don't think we're going to see one of these cars pull off 4 wins like Winward did last year, or 5 wins that Paul Miller Racing won the year before. I mean, you just look at this entry list and there's so many good lineups. You gotta think that the regulars of this class are going to be in contention for a win. You know, you're talking about your Winwards, your Vassar Sullivans, Heart of Racing, did I mention Turner Motorsports? But then you can also see this other new wave that's pushing in with a lot of talent. You know, Wayne Taylor Racing, Korthoff Competition, Wright Motorsports. Oh man, did that 120 Wright Motorsports car ever have a big breakout last season? It's just such a tough choice because you look at all of these and they could reasonably be on for a championship. But when I look at the Heart of Racing's lineup, it just stands out to me, and that's something that's difficult to do in a field as deep as GTD. Look, last year Heart of Racing was strong, but it was a bit of a down year for them, especially in GTD, as they adapted to this new Vantage Evo. As we know in GTD, the AM-rated driver can be a difference maker, and that's going to be Zach Robichon, who, believe it or not, is still a silver-rated driver. I think that makes the difference in a very competitive class like GTD, but give me the Heart of Racing off the back of a strong summer, win the full season GTD Championship. In the Endurance Cup, I'm going with a team that's an icon of the grid and a fan favorite, and that's Turner Motorsports. Now, to be clear, I also think that Turner Motorsports is going to be right there in the running for the full season championship. At the end of it all, though, I think they come up just short of the full season championship, but they lock down the Endurance Cup crown. And now for a bold prediction or a breakout prediction in this GTD class, I'm looking at the 45 Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini. I think the Lamborghini is going to prove to be a very strong platform in IMSA next year, and full season driver Danny Formal has another year of experience under his belt, and they've also brought in Trent Hinman to partner him for the full season. Combine the Lamborghini, which I think is on the rise, as well as a strong driver lineup, and I think this 45 is going to break through for a big win this year. Oh, it looks like that's it. That was pretty fun, wasn't it? I'm really looking forward to seeing all of your season predictions down in the comments below. And when you're done making those predictions, you can go and check out this playlist to get caught up on all of the news of the IMSA offseason. Once again, a huge shout out to all of the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offtheS's or click that join button below. Once again, though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.